What is corporate governance? It is that set of processes, customs, policies, laws, institutions affecting the way a corporation, a business, is directed, administered, and controlled. The way in the organization, the way you do things, the culture, the way of life, how it's directed, how it's documented to be followed. You go to human resource manual, it is well explained among the tools, the policies, which help us to live together within that organization and be able to deliver the vision, the mission of that organization, whilst living the values. So corporate governance is that processes, customs, policies, laws which affect the way the corporation is run. The way your business is run will depend with how you're gonna write down the processes. And this is a very good topic, reaching to this point. There is a time at Biashara Club last year, before COVID, BC, there is a time we did business process mapping. Every business, however small it is, there is a set of processes that you have. How do you map those processes? Then how do you document those processes? And that's how what helps business growth and business sustainability. And today we are talking then the corporate governance, the follow through of the set processes that we mapped before then. So it is the important theme of corporate governance is the nature and the extent of accountability of every individual in the organization. It needs to be documented. It needs to be followed. And thus the mechanism that try to reduce or eliminate the principal agent problem. We'll be able to see in the model of corporate governance, the theoretical foundation and framework, why corporate governance is important. When you grow your business, you have board of directors. Why shall you have board of directors? If in an SME, how do you run your business? Does it mean that when you leave this world or exit the scene, the business will go down? That's where we need to understand the concept of corporate governance. As we continuously do our business, we must think, do we have a board? When shall we have a board? When shall we develop the principal agent relationships within our businesses? Which also includes the relationship among many stakeholders involved and the goals which the corporation is governed, the vision and the mission. In contemporary business corporations, however big or small the business is, even a sole proprietor, there is all what we call the main external stakeholders. These are the shareholders. For a sole proprietorship, that is the shareholder, the venture holders, the trade creditors, the people who give you credit. So when you have a better corporate governance, we'll see later how well that the people can also be able to give you better credit. Most of the businesses, for us to grow, we need to appreciate the power of trade credit. It is the cheaper way of financing your business. You need to build, invest more of the trade with your customers, so that the creditors can be able to appreciate this. You know, the business organization, for example, the supermarket, the retail chain, they provide the space. People, the suppliers bring their wares, they bring their products to be sold. They are given credit to be able to sell to the customer because of creating the availability of their products of the suppliers, visibility, and the suppliers with the owners. They do activation so that the product can move and you can be able to pay. So when we are looking at corporate governance, we must be able to understand the external stakeholders, including our customers and our communities, and what each thing we are doing, or how are we affecting our external stakeholders. And the corporation must also, or your business must also understand the internal stakeholders. Yourself, the sole proprietor, you are the employee, the board of directors, the executive, the CEO, the C-suite occupants, and the entire organization. Corporate governance then is that relationship among stakeholders. That is the external and the internal, all the way from the board of directors, the executives, the managers, the employees, and how they build this organization with taking care of the customer, of the finances, the processes are intact, good people who are enlightened, then the outside world can appreciate and be able to do business more together with the internal stakeholders?
We have several parties to corporate governance. And first here, indicated, we have the shareholders, the directors, and the managers. These are the top level shareholders, being the owners of the business. The directors provide the guidance, and they're the guardians of the company assets and for the shareholders. They're entrusted, and there's a relationship, that agency relationship between the owners of the organization and those ones that deal with day-to-day running of the organization. Then the people that support the directors to deliver is the team of management, who use the assets to generate value. So the question is, in the business, in the organization you are in, from these three bodies, who exactly, which position do you occupy, and what is your role? We'll be appreciating that as we move along the day. Then we have the shareholders, of course, the board of directors. And the role of the shareholders is to provide capital. And also, this could be individuals, they could be groups of people. The board of directors, they're elected by the owners to represent their interest. And that's why they would have like quarterly meetings or semi-annual meetings to actually report back to the shareholders. They have a reporting responsibility to the shareholders. Then you have audit committees that exist. Now, when it comes to audit committees, you have an internal audit committee, and you would also have external auditors. As you go along the way, you'll go appreciating other principles that now govern the relationship between all these parties. Then you may have a compensation committee that is in terms of governing the employees who are also part of the stakeholders. Now, in today's corporation, whether government or private, you have owners, you have the committees, you have the board of directors. That is just a simple layout of how that relationship goes along. Now, the employees, our staff, you see, they are directly in a reporting relationship with the CEO, who has a reporting relationship to the board, and also now other stakeholders, where we have the suppliers. I could actually see in the chat box, we have some people, they were introducing themselves, they're suppliers, they're dealers for some corporates. So the suppliers, the financiers, they're actually part of the stakeholders for whom they're interested in how an organization is governed. So wherever management is separate from the ownership or membership of the organization, there's need for governance. For example, public listed companies, they're governed by the board of directors. Small and medium-sized companies also have board of directors, and that's where Dr. Stanley was actually sharing with us and telling us, as our own small organizations are growing, then we are required to actually embrace principles of good governance, where you actually bring on board a board of directors to help support the business and move the business to that next level. Subsidiary and joint ventures also usually have a board. Limited companies by guarantee. For example, universities and colleges, they have a council and a governing body. Charity clubs, hospitals have board committees. Quasi-government bodies have councils. But then the question is, what of a family business? Maybe you can get the chat box and you actually would tell me, in a family business, then the question is, who governs the family business? And this is where most of our SMEs probably the space we are playing in. If it's a family-owned type of business, the question is, how do we make sure we are able to embrace principles of good governance? Who provides that check to ensure that we are well governed and we have certainty of how we develop and grow, and that we are not compromised, and that the other parties that relate with us have access to key information that they would need to establish and develop their type of relationship with us, be it the financials, be it the suppliers, creditors. So maybe in the chat box, you could actually tell me, I can see some charts. Family business depends on the type of business. Yes, true, that's generally true. It depends on the type of business. But then the question is, how do we make sure we are well governed in a family business type of a setup? So Paul Nairu asks, what is the role difference between a managing director and a CEO? They can be technical or non-technical directors. And look back and check on the history of family businesses, where you have the principal being, of course, the founder, the owner, and in most cases, the one who actually runs the business through and through. In the event of the exit of the principal founder, what exactly has happened to the businesses? Do they continue in the same power, capacity, and in the same momentum that they were in when the founder was present? Or do they change the course of their establishment as an enterprise? Some, of course, have ceased to be. And that is why the aspect of embracing good corporate governance becomes very important, even when we want to think of the family business and how we actually manage the businesses. So looking at the principles of corporate governance, specifically it refers to one, the systems, and two, the processes by which every organization is able to get effective control and management of the enterprise. Why? Because if we don't have a defined system and mechanism, it is difficult to tell the tomorrow of that business, of that enterprise. It's difficult to establish the direction the enterprise is headed to. And this becomes a challenge in developing the business beyond a certain level. For example, at some point, you would need the resources from financials. When our system of work and governance is not clear, then it becomes difficult for those partnerships or financial institutions to have sufficient faith in the business that it has the capacity of taking up, say, like a credit facility and being able to service it because of either a challenge in the systems, or if the processes are not clear, it also presents such kind of a challenge. And that's why through KCB, Biashara Club, and this type of forums, the one essence of this type of forums is to try and empower the business community, the Biashara Club members, in helping us see what are the gaps that we have within our own enterprises and corporates, so that then we can be able to align and be able to embrace certain best practices, for example, aspects of good governance. So when you have effective control and management of the organization, then the firm is able to operate from a different level, and a more professional level, and you're able to embrace and you're able to bring on board other aspects. For example, we become more accountable as an organization. It brings on board elements of transparency. It's open, it's clear, and transparency goes along with the issues of trust and honesty, that our records, for example, our books of accounts, there is full disclosures in what we give in such records. There's the issue of participation. Participation by who? By the different stakeholders that relate with the organization. One, the owners, the management and leadership, the staff, that is in terms of the employees, the suppliers, the financials. There's open participatory engagement, and that when it comes to issues to do with, for example, decision making, there's inclusivity of the different input from the different parties that actually engage. Then there's the aspect of efficiency and effectiveness of how we run the enterprise. Equity and inclusivity, no discrimination should be found in a well-governed institution.